Thanks for coming back to the Business Equation podcast today. We have a special guest, Mike C-Roc, Ciorrocco. C-Roc is the CEO of People Building Inc. He's a performance coach, author, dynamic public speaker, visionary, and thought leader. He has been featured by Yahoo Finance as one of the top business leaders to follow in 2020 and is on a mission to build people. We're happy to have him today. At his core, he's obsessed with success and helping others achieve greatness. C-Roc is a guy who had a fire lit in him at a very early age. That fire has led him to inspire others to see the greatness inside of themselves, using past life events to fuel their fire. Buckle in, here we go. C-Roc, welcome to the show.
What's up, Nick? How you doing, buddy? I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy you reached out to me in the first place to welcome me on and introduce me to your audience, man.
Absolutely. We're happy to have you. We try to get guys on, women alike, anybody who has a story that's inspiring, that a young entrepreneur, when they're trying to get started and they have one of those days that's just really tough and they need to hear an inspiring story from somebody who's been there, done it, and come out on the other side. That's the kind of guest we like to bring. So we're happy to have you today.
Well, thanks. Much appreciation. I always like to start my show and any show that I go on with gratitude, man, because that's where it all begins.
For sure. So take us right to the start. Give us, we gave you a quick bio, give us a little bit more and who you are and what you do, and feed us.
Well, look, man, here's the thing. I run a mortgage company. I don't know if that was in there or not, but I run a mortgage division for Nations Lending. It's a home loan company in the Mid-Atlantic in Miami. We're licensed in 50 states, but I oversee Mid-Atlantic and Miami branches. And we have been just crushing it once we figured out that how important it is to build people. And, mortgages is our vehicle, but we understand now every day we wake up, we're trying to build the people that work with us into the greatness that's inside of them and show them that they have greatness inside of them, because there's a lot of broken people in this world. There's a lot of broken mindsets in this world. And so, we really focused on that, and all of a sudden our business started growing, like blowing up. Speaking of broken people, growing up in my family, I dealt with a lot of broken people, a lot of mentally challenged, not mentally challenged, but more of like mental issues with people. And, I don't remember my parents ever being together. I always remember just going to my dad's every other weekend or vice versa. And I remember a lot of conflict growing up, of child support conflict or custody conflict. And as a kid, you're not knowing like what that is all about. You're not sure if you're the cause of it. You don't know what to think. Right. And so at a young age, an early age, I had a lot of conflict in my life and a lot of awkward situations, a lot of uncomfortable situations. And I'm not telling you this to complain about it or play a victim. I actually look back on it and thankful that I went through it, because now the stuff that I go through now, the hurdles, the roadblocks, any uncomfortable, awkward situations is like a breeze to me. And sometimes I look at other people thinking to myself, why are you guys stressing about this? But I got to remember where I came from and what I'm made of. And that's, see the quotes behind
Yep.
me. I believe in positive self-talk, talking to myself a lot. And that's one of the things I always say to myself. So that's where I got that name in the movement of What Are You Made Of movement started, by just positive reinforcement to yourself. And, sometimes we talk bad about ourselves and talk down to ourselves. A lot of things go on in our minds that we need to start really working on and controlling. So, but Nick, the fire really got lit in me when my dad, when I was 11 years old, I decided to move back with my mom after going through a lot of mental and emotional abuse, dealing with my stepmom and my dad. And not sure what the cause of it is, man. I'm not trying to bash my dad by telling the story by any means, but I had to get out of an environment when I was 11 years old that was not a good environment to be in. And he didn't like that. So my dad always carried a wad of $100 bills around in his pocket. I always looked up to him for that. It was something like, he was a mason. That's why I have bricks here. He was a mason, had a great masonry business, like a lot of Italian guys. And I wasn't sure if we were in the mafia or what, but he always had cash, like a lot of cash. And I was like, man, I want to have that kind of cash one day. I always looked up to him for what we got with the cash. Like, we had trips and different things. But when I told him I wanted to leave and move back in my mom's house, he was very upset. And I wasn't sure if he was really upset because he was worried about me leaving and not being around, or if he was more concerned with money. I didn't know. These are the things that went through my head as a kid.
Sure.
And when I told him that I wanted to leave and he got these court papers, he took out the wad of $100 bills and peeled one off, crumpled it up and threw it at me and said, "You're going to need this when you're living on the streets with your mother one day." And it's one thing for somebody to say that to someone, but for it to be your hero and somebody you look up to, it was, it really hits you. But I'm a real stubborn guy. And, when I heard that, the first thing I thought about was, you're not going to win. I'm not going to let you be right. And so that fire was lit at that moment. I always look back to that. I'm 43 now. 30 some years I've been looking back at that, not using it as an excuse for anything, but feeding
Right. Chip
off
on
of
your
it.
shoulder more than anything, right?
Yeah. So I've been feeding off that. And the other thing is that I wanted to help people. I realized that I can't be the only one in this situation that's been given up on. And I wanted to figure out a way that I could help people that have been given up on and show them you could still overcome that and be successful no matter what happens to you. I didn't know how though, Nick. I was like thinking to myself, what am I going to do? I don't know anything as far as at 11 years old. I was like, I don't know how I can help people, but I did know this. I did know that I could be successful. I could be the best I could be at school, sports, anything that I came across. To people that in my adult, elders, I could be respectful. I could show people how to be the right kind of person despite the circumstances. And that's how I started it. And then I just kept doing it all the time and being a leader and influencing people in the right direction. So that's a little background on me. And now I'm on fire right now to help people and want to help heal and fix broken people.
That's great. So take me through like your late teens. Did you go to college? Like, if you didn't, like, what did you do? Like, how did you get started in a mortgage? I'm sure, did you do something before that? Like, what was, I think that's a lot of times, like, for me, I always look back at my 20s and I feel like that was definitely, nobody tells you that 20s are going to probably be the hardest part of your life. But for me, they were. You're trying to figure out who the heck you really are, or like you say, what are you made of? That's, for me, my 20s is definitely, I figured out what I'm made of for sure. So take us through that if you don't mind.
Yeah. So by the way, when I told my dad I wanted to leave at that moment, I didn't just leave the house at that point. They had to go through court stuff. So that was a real awkward spot to be in after that happened, to live still somewhere where you didn't want to be. And they knew that. And so when I did finally move back to my mom's house, I had a guy named George, my mom married. He was my stepdad. And at that young age, when I was an impressionable kid growing through puberty and becoming a man, he was the right person at the right time. Really hardcore, black and white, no in between, right is right, wrong is wrong. And always told us that if you do good things happen. If you do bad things happen. Live your life that way. And so George really was there for me at that moment and provided a great example of what a man should be. He didn't have the best financial sense, except, I mean, he would be able to squeeze a dollar like really, really tight and make it stretch a long ways. As far as making money, that wasn't his thing. So I got everything else from him. And, at that right moment in time, I think that's what kept me on the right road, as well as the two things that I was going to help people. And I wanted to not let my dad win with that $100 bill thing. So I think that, through my teen years, having George there, and he was always at my ball games, football, baseball, he would always be there and he'd always be coaching me. In me wanting to help people, he also taught me how to coach people and how to not take anybody's bullshit either. A lot of times we give ourselves a lot of bullshit in our minds. Why we didn't do something, why we let ourselves down, and we start to believe this voice in our head. I believe there's two voices. There's a productive voice and an unproductive voice. The unproductive voice has been trained for so long and strengthened for so long that we validate what they say a lot of times instead of listening to the positive voice and the productive voice that tells you the right way to go. So you really have to, I worked on for years in my teens and going into college, really, and it's so crazy because George taught me this as a teenager, that you need to really train that right voice in your head and not buy into the bullshit. And then when people are around you, not buy into their listening to the wrong voice in their head, the wrong man or the wrong woman in their head. And I know it sounds kind of corny, but it's true. I think that we all have that. And, when I can, for my employees now, I have 40 some employees. When I have something that I need to go over with them, or their production's not there, or they're having issues, and I talk to them about what voice they're actually listening to, because they'll come to you with, there's something wrong with a story, right? Or an excuse. And when you make excuses and have a story, you fill up all the void where success should lie. There's no room for success, right? So I'll listen to them for a minute. And then I say, listen, I'm not interested in your story. I'm interested in your success. And I can't listen to your story, and I'm not going to buy into it. So there's no sense in me listening to it. And I don't think you should be buying into it. And I have to call them out on it. So that's something that came to me at a young age when I was a teenager from my stepfather. I ended up going to college at Salisbury University in Maryland, played college football. And I lost engagement there because, I really started smoking pot, drinking, hanging out, and lost focus. And I really think I had the reason for that is because I was disengaged in the fact that I wasn't reaching my potential there. I knew I wasn't going to go pro in football. And the stuff that I was learning in college, I didn't see how that would help me make money and do big things the way I was thinking at that time. I was thinking big. I wanted to accomplish something. I knew something. There's something special inside of me, and I can't explain this. I don't want it to come off the wrong way, but there's something special inside of me that has to get out, that has a potential to change the world. And I needed to figure out what that was, and I wasn't getting it there. So I got disengaged and dropped out with a 4.0. And so went into the restaurant business, in-home sales after that, learned how to sell, close deals. And then I got my real estate license in 2005. And that's how I got to where I am today as far as the mortgage business. But I've always been building people. It's always been anybody around me from the family members that I didn't get into a lot of the stories, but my grandmother, my uncles, a lot of them had issues. And I always try to counsel them and work them through it. And I just have a history of that. And I have a passion for it, Nick.
So you got into 2005 and you started doing real estate and the mortgages. So when did you start deciding that you really wanted to go after your passion of the coaching and building people? Like how did that happen, and when did that happen?
So we were doing it already in our businesses, right? We were building our people. And then January of 2019, George, my stepfather, passed away. A sudden heart attack at 62 years old. And it was very sudden. But when that happened, within the next week, something happened inside of me it's weird. Like he was a very passionate person. If you got him talking about baseball, because he was a Phillies fan, Phillies, or you got him talking about hunting or fishing, man, he would go off. He was quiet until then. He would go off, man. And if he thought he was right about something, passion, man, just coming energy. And so when he passed away, within a week, man, I felt something hit me. Like, you have to start going after this. You have to get fired up, and you need to change the world. And that was in January of 2019. I started the What Are You Made Of movement right after that. And I started the podcast, and I started going out and just getting known and being around people and contacting people. And every day I'm obsessed with, how can I get known? How can I help more people? How can I get known globally? That's how the movement started. And we were doing good in our mortgage business, and we were building our people, but some of the stuff we were doing was blowing us up. And I'm thinking, I can't keep us right here and doing this. That's limiting our reach. We got to reach out and start helping other people in other industries, even not just the mortgage business, other industries, and help build people, help companies build their people. And that's how it got started. And it's been, evolving as it's gone. I mean, the idea is that sometimes you start it and you just got to get it going. And once you get it going, then new ideas come up, and you start, moving around a little bit here or there and changing some things up. So that's what's been going over the last year.
That's exciting. So it sounds like you've got a lot of great ways that you're coaching people. What different platforms are you coaching them on, and how has that changed since 2019 when the passion got lit from your stepfather passing away? How has that taken from 2019? I'm sure when you first started and first had the idea that it's different today. So how has the last year and a half gone?
Well, first of all, we're trying to get known, and that's the only way you can help people is if you're known, right? If nobody knows who you are, they're not going to come to you for help. So I want to establish a podcast. So I started, first of all, writing blogs, and then the blogs turned into topics for the podcast, telling my story of what I'm made of, and then getting other people on the story or on the podcast to tell their story, what they're made of, and how they've used their past and turned any setbacks or letdowns into rocket fuel for the future. So that's how it started. And then I started thinking to myself, well, really, since we're in the people building business, why don't we start a company called People Building Inc.? And then that way we can help people via one-on-one coaching, consulting businesses. We could do some training platforms, digital courses. We could do all that. But in the meantime, we've been just using the podcast as training. We've had some coaching groups and some masterminds that we've been working with, and just constantly going after and adding value to people so that we can build trust with people. And they can understand where I come from, and the fact that I've done it twice now where we've started with my partners. We've started from zero and built two $10 million companies, not just once, but twice, which makes a difference. It just shows that it's not luck, the stuff that we do and how it works. So,
well, there's a big difference between 6 figures and 7 figures, right?
Yeah. 7 and then 7 to 8.
Right. Absolutely.
So, yeah,
for sure. So take us through some of your best practices for coaching. Like, if you get maybe somebody that's listening right now and they're like, okay, it's great, you have a good story. they're going through some hardship right now, and they just need to know where to restart. And I bet you I can guess that you're going to start with the mind. But where I would start too. So what would you tell somebody that's looking for something out there right now?
First of all, if you're in a bad spot right now, let's say you lost a job or your business from COVID, for example, or you're just going through a bad spell with the way you feel. First and foremost, you got to understand that everything that you go through is a training session for your future. Good. Any negativity you're dealing with, setbacks, letdowns, negative people, all they are is fuel for your future. Once you wrap your head around this, no matter what you come into, you just understand, hey, I'm training. This is fuel. I'm going to convert it, and I'm going to propel from it. That's the biggest problem people have. They play the victim mentality, or they feel bad for themselves, or they think this deck's stacked against them, when actuality, everybody that's been successful in life has gone through setbacks and letdowns. Every single person. There's no person that hasn't. But the problem is that the journey to success is often invisible. It's not transparent and shared with people. And so that's one thing that I know where I'm going with this, Nick. I really have no doubt in my mind where I'm going to end up with this thing. I'm going to be a global household name for inspiration and mindset coaching and just solving problems for people. So I know that I'm going to go there, and the success that I'm going to have and the types of people I'm going to be working with, including celebrities. Since I already know that, I'm training myself now through all the hard aches and setbacks that I go through. But not only that, I'm being transparent with my social media audience, my podcast audience, and other people's podcast audience of the stuff that I'm going through. Setbacks, letdowns, anytime I feel like off and I still push through anyway. Those things I'm sharing because I know where I'm going already. And it's important before I get there, I need to share this now so people can see it.
And people like to see behind the scenes, right? Like I think we've seen that from reality shows maybe 10 or 15 years ago. People love to see the real truth. And yep. I think if you're showing that, that's exactly what people want to see. Because sometimes people get stuck. What should they put on social media? And it's not all canned pictures. Sometimes I think they just want to see the truth, that you didn't have a good day. Here's what's going on. Like, this is how I dealt with it. And that's easy for a young entrepreneur to get stuck, I think. I always like to say too, if you're stuck, your goal's not big enough. You need something bigger to shoot for.
Yeah. The other thing is, well, first of all, on social media, since you brought that up, if you're on social media and you're trying to think of content and trying to create content, you're doing it the wrong way. The stuff is right in front of you. Like right now, for example, and I'm going to do this right now. We're on a podcast with you right now. And since I'm doing this right now, I might as well take my phone out and get on Instagram and take a picture of this screen and show that I'm on a podcast with you right now, right? Content done. That's easy. That easy. Whatever you're doing right now, whatever you're experiencing, the day that you had, you don't need to be negative, right? If it was a bad day or something, but anything that's going on, share it with people and explain why you're sharing it. But I'll post that on Instagram later, tag you in it. That's content, right? And it also collaborates with you. It helps you out. And then your audience, you share it. It helps me because it shares with your audience. So there's all kinds of things, but people try to think too much instead of just looking at what's right in front of them. The other thing I would tell people that are struggling right now or going through any tough time is making sure, you mentioned this already, you have a clear picture of what you want out of life. And the other thing like about this, a lot of people, I'll ask them, if you could have 3 to 4 things, anything that you wanted, 3 or 4 things, and it would come true, what would they be? If you found a genie lamp and you rubbed it and a genie came out and said, I'll give you 3 to 5 wishes, whatever you want, what would they be? And most people, when you ask that question, have no clue what they would say. So first of all, let's figure that out. Let's figure out what you want out of life. What kind of money do you want? What kind of job do you want? What kind of family do you want? Right? If you don't know those things, what are you aiming at? What are you going towards? You have to have some kind of vision or target, and you got to get clear on it. The other thing people say to me is, what if it's impossible? Well, the thing is that everything, hear me, everything is impossible until it happens. We're on a podcast right now on Zoom and we're seeing each other and we're talking over a computer, right? 30, 40 years ago, do you think people have thought that was impossible?
Probably even 20 years ago, right? Like
cell phones, the way smartphones work. These were impossible. These are impossibilities. So don't tell me what if it's impossible. Write it down anyway. And then from there, once you get clear on what you want, you need to write it down every single day. Not just write it down and look at it every day. You need to physically write it out. Because what happens is when it's in your mind, it's not real. But when you put it on paper and actually write it down and you have a physical piece of paper with it, the words written on it, Then it becomes real. Then you're putting energy behind it. And now you have something that you're going to make happen. And if you do it every day, you resell yourself on all the heartaches and setbacks and letdowns and work that you have to put in to get it. Because you have, like, if you're not sold on it, you're not going to do it. And you're not going to push through. So that's why it's important. Some people say, why do you want to write them down every day, 2 times a day? Why do you do that? It's because I need to resell myself on the stuff that I'm going through every day to remind myself of my visions and goals. So that's the basics of where I start.
And it's work, right?
And it's work. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm real big on that too, that you have to put it on paper. You got to get it out of your head. You have to put it on paper. And I think in this day and age with the computers and everything, it's not enough just to go ahead and type it somewhere. You got to put a pen to paper. There's power in the pen. That's what I like to say. I think there is. And you're absolutely right. And you're not saying that because it's you read it somewhere. You're saying it because you've done it.
I live it, man. Everything I say to people, I live. Now, I'm not going to say I don't struggle. I don't write my goals down every single day. There's days where I don't. And then I realize that day I'm not feeling right. I'm not accomplishing everything I want to accomplish. And so the other thing is that you got to take care of your body. Like when I talk to people and coach people, I say, what time are you going to bed at night? And what time are you getting up in the morning? After 9 o'clock at night, there's very, very few good things or productive things that can happen. It's just, and a lot of people don't want to admit it, but the actual truth is very, very little that can come from work. Now, if you have work shifts and all that, that's different, but I'm talking about normally, the normal case. And then what happens is that after you get plenty of sleep, what are you doing when you wake up in the morning? What's the first thing that runs through your head? For me, it's gratitude. I wake up every day and say, thank you. I woke up. Now I got another opportunity to do something special. Okay. Not everybody feels that right away, but you got to work on it. And gratitude is a big thing for me. So
before your feet hit the floor, right?
Yeah, man. I wiggle my toes and fingers like this while I'm laying down. I'm like, man, okay, I can feel, I'm good. I can talk. I hum a little bit, not to wake my wife up who likes to sleep in a little bit more than I do. And I make sure my voice works. I can see, I can hear. Thank God. I'm ready to go. Now, if you don't believe in God, thank somebody. Thank something. And I'm ready to go, man. I hop up. I write my goals down. I get a big thing of water. And I make sure people are doing these kind of things when I'm coaching them. If you're not hydrated, you're not taking care of your body, you're not getting plenty of sleep, you're not going to think right. Your mind is not going to work properly, and you're going to feel like crap. So it's basically simple. And you just have to diagnose from the outside somebody else of what they're going through, and then start from that and then move your way through these things, and you'll find the reason that they're having problems. And if they don't want to do those things, then they really don't want help and they don't want to get better. And that's the question that I'll ask as well is, do you really want to make things better?
Do you help people get the 3 goals, the wishes when you ask somebody that question? Like if they're like, well, money, I don't know. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. So like if we just played that out right now, they said money to me. What kind of money? How much money? Right. What do you want the money for? What do you want to do with it? Like, let's get real clear and specific. Let's also even examine your relationship with money. Like, what is your real relationship with money? Is it something that, scares you? You look down upon people that have money? Are you confident in the fact that you can get money? What is your relationship with money? And we'll talk about that, but we got to get specific and we got to set time constraints on when you want things by. Once you put that stuff out into the universe, things start to happen. It's magic. I've seen it over and over again, man, where you write it down and then you look back 6 months after writing it down over and over again, and you look back and you're like, man, I should have set that goal higher. I should have set that target higher. When I wrote it down, I thought it was big. Yep. Here's an example. My team right now, we have a goal this year to close 1,000 loans, right? We closed 460 last year as a group. We had a goal, and when we wrote that 1,000 loan goal down, I was thinking to myself, man, that's a lot. I'm gonna have to figure out how to do this. This is crazy. Now I preach this stuff all the time, right? Big goals, 10x. I'm a Grant Cardone licensee, by the way. I teamed up with Grant. I teach his material as well as mine because I figured if don't reinvent the wheel. If it's something that worked for me, it'll work as well for everyone else. But 10x your goals, make them real big, right? I preach this stuff all the time. And I was even thinking 1,000 was a lot. And here's the thing. So then we're on pace right now to do 1,050. And so that goal, 6 months, we just had a meeting this morning. I said, guys, we need to raise the goal up, man. Right now, if we stay where we are, we're going to come up a little short of that when we possibly could put the goal now at 1,100, 1,200, maybe even 1,500. and will blow the other goal away. So if I'm talking to people about things, I'm making sure they're very clear, specific, and when they want to do it by too.
So how about COVID? You know, you're going for this goal of 1,000 and then COVID happens. So how do you talk to your team March 15th? Like take us into your head, take us into your war room when you were going through that. You know, you've got this big goal out there, and then all of a sudden something that you can't control smacks you right in the face. What do you do then?
So I had no idea what to expect, but one thing I did know is back in 2008, when I got in the mortgage business, I was very observant of what was going on around the economy, the news, the people around me, how people were reacting to things, and how we came out of it as well. What I did was I thought to myself, okay, well, this happens again, which I know it will at some point within the next 10 years or so. I'm going to be prepared for this. And when it starts to happen, whatever it might be, I didn't know if it's COVID or what it was, I'm going to prepare myself and the people around me to take control of the situation and make it the reason that you're successful instead of the reason that you're not successful. So as soon as this started to happen, you know, I started watching and I saw some of the similar things happening in the news, the politics that started getting played, the Dow going down, people starting to panic. And I got my team together on a call, and we did this. It wasn't just one call. I did it over and over again after this. But the initial call was, guys, listen, there's going to be a lot of people right now that contract and quit. They're going to use this as an excuse not to be good and successful and accomplish anything. We're not going to do that. We're going to do the thing, the exact opposite everybody else is doing. We're going to use this as a reason to succeed. We're going to grab up market share. We're going to go and basically look, no days off. Let's just take the opportunity right now for this, however long this lasts, a couple months, whatever it's going to be, and go after it. And so we had already been working remote for the most part prior to this. So that wasn't a big deal for us. And luckily we were labeled essential, but I told my team, if they label us inessential or unessential, whatever the word is, we're going to make ourselves essential. We're going to figure out a way. And I basically took charge. And my man, Tim Story, I don't know if you know Tim Story, but he talks about in these kind of situations, the 3 G's. You need to have 3 G's. One is guard, guide, and govern. When I thought about that, I'm thinking to myself, I got to lay the vision down for the team and let them know, hey, listen, we're not cowering back. We need to wake it up right now, realize what we're getting into. It's going to be worse than you've ever could imagine. We're going to have to do things differently than we've ever done them before. We're going to have to work twice as hard to get the same amount of business. Prepare your mind right now for it. And then what happened after that, Nick? We had 3. March, April, May. And now June, just now too. 4 record months. 4 record months going through COVID because we set the tone right from the beginning, set the vision, and used it as an excuse to succeed rather than fail. And, not everybody had that success because of the fact that their industry was hit hard by it. I understand that. We were fortunate enough to know, though, that we weren't going to let our psyche or those around us prevent us from going after it.
But you had things in your business that happened too, right? Like a lot of the banks stopped jumbo mortgages for times. Like I'm sure you had to run and find other banks that would do jumbo mortgages and stuff like that. Different requirements and stuff came up during it. It's not like it was just easy to do mortgages for those 4 months, right?
No, I mean, the thing is that a lot of title companies weren't doing closings at their title offices, and real estate agents couldn't show houses for a period of time. But what we did was we said, okay, if we're not going to get business from real estate agents at this time, we're going to call our power base, our past customers, everybody we know, and see who needs help with maybe possibly a refinance.
Smart.
And so we just focused on what we could control instead of the things that we couldn't control. And we created our own economy. And before you know it, we had record-breaking months because we were bringing in refis at the same time. Still, purchases still happen. Jumbos went out the window for a period of time, but we knew that was going to happen. It happened in 2008. It's not a surprise. And we just work ways where we maybe combo a first and a second together instead of doing a jumbo. Little things like that. A lot of companies lowered their credit score or raised their credit score requirements. We didn't. We kept ours where they were. Our company was in great position to be able to do that. And we kept right where we were, and we've gained employees because of that. So it's all in preparation and like we talked about before, mindset and controlling your mind. I talk a lot about being the puppet master rather than the puppet. And what I mean by that is when you control your reaction to things and the way you think about things and how you respond to things, you're the puppet master. When you take 100% responsibility for everything around you, even if it's not perceived as your fault or anything you could have done about it, what could you have done differently? When you do that, you become the puppet master and not the puppet. And so a lot of people live in a puppet world. They don't realize it until I explain that to them. And when I explain that to them, they're like, screw that. I don't want to be a puppet. All right, well, take 100% responsibility, right? Start figuring out how to create your own economy. Stop making excuses. Stop blaming other people. And when you do that and start reacting the right way, you control how you react. And all of a sudden, it fixes them. I've fixed so many people by just using that analogy because they become aware of it and I paint the picture for them. So it's just little things that I've learned. I try to share with people and I went through this stuff myself. I'm not teaching anybody anything that I haven't experienced myself, you know?
Well, it sounds like your niche is definitely broken people, you know, fixing them and giving people the right mindset and the way to look at things different. What about the real fresh guy that comes to you young, you know, whether he's right out of college or maybe he's someone told him that you can make a lot of money selling mortgages or, you know, closing deals. So he comes at you, you know, 20, 21, 22, young, hungry. You feel like he's got that it factor. He just needs coach. Like, what do you tell that guy?
Same thing. You got to, but the best part about that is that usually those people don't act like they know everything because they haven't been through the business already. We get a lot of people that come into the business and they think they know everything and they don't buy in. First of all, when they come into our organization, we have certain expectations that we lay out, certain minimum production and certain activities that we expect everyone to do. If you don't do it, you don't work here. And a lot of leaders in businesses are scared to do that because they're not confident in themselves to be able to continue the business by themselves or add people and find people for themselves. So what they do is they get held over a barrel by their employees and let the employees make the tough decisions of how things should be run. When that should never, ever, ever, ever take place. A leader of a business is not afraid of accountability, not afraid to hold his people accountable and lay the vision down for the company. And if people don't do that, they're not afraid to provide an exit door for those employees. So we lay it out from the beginning and then we hold people accountable and are not afraid to let them leave if that's the case. And by the way, Nick, anybody that's ever been with me that didn't buy in and we let go, our business shot up right afterwards.
For everybody listening, that's hard to wrap their head around. But why don't you say that again? Because I think it's so true.
Yeah, every time somebody we let go that didn't buy into our program and our expectations, as soon as they left, our business shut up. And, you know, it's about having confidence. And one thing I tell my team all the time, and I told them from the beginning, and this sounds harsh. I know it sounds harsh, and I've gotten a lot of shit about it, even from some of my employees, but they just don't know. They don't know what they don't know. So I tell them, listen, I'll do this by myself if I have to. If everybody doesn't buy in and leaves, I know that so much conviction that this is the right way to do it and the right thing to do, that I'll do it by myself and I'll add one person at a time. I'll start from scratch and add one person at a time that buys into this culture if I have to. And I tell people that, and you know, it's kind of harsh, but they get it now. They understand where I'm coming from.
Well, you've built it a couple of times. You know, you could build it again, right? Like that's
and by the way, I don't want to have to do that. I tell them that too. I don't want to have to do that, but there's a right way and a wrong way, and I'm never going to be held over a barrel by anyone. I'm not going to live my life that way. Like a lot of people come home from their office when they run a company, or even if they're in sales and they work with people, and they're miserable. They had a rough day. They don't like being around the people they work with. They're held over a barrel by employees sometimes and held hostage in their own business. And they don't do anything about it because they don't have the confidence. So that's another thing I'll work with people on is building confidence.
Well, there's a lot with confidence to be said, a lot with self-esteem. I like what you said about the mindset. I always think that when you can get to the point that you can control your own mind and you can take those negative thoughts and say, wait a second, you're not coming in. You know, I'm going to reinforce it with a positive affirmation rather than that negative thing that kind of try to creep into your mind. That's when the magic really starts. Like you have to be able to catch those negative thoughts because, you know, we're human. There are two voices, like you're saying. There's one that it just sneaks in and tries to give you the reason why you can't do it and try to sell yourself on it. And I always say there's times when, you know, you want to find out, hey, you want to sell yourself that you don't want to do something. You know, in your phone who you could call that's going to tell you the same thing. Oh, yeah, don't do that. Yep. Why would you do that business deal? That's so risky. And at the same time, when I have that going on, I'll pull out my phone and I say, I know that these three guys are going to tell me, jump, go do it. You know, and that's who I call because if I know I'm wavering and I may want to hear something to talk me out of it, I say, nope, I know I'm calling the guy that's going to, you know, a friend of mine or my business associate is going to tell me, no, jump, go for it. take the risk, because you got people in your phone like that too. And that's what you just got to be aware of, the different voices like you're talking about.
Yep. And the other thing is when you have successes and you have wins, those become your new standards. Those become your new floor. And you need to remember that in your mind, that when you have a success or if you have a win, okay, now that's a stacked confidence wins on top of each other. And before you know it, your floor is way up here instead of where it started. And you've increased and you've busted through ceilings that way as well. So every time we have a win, we celebrate it. We celebrate it for a short time.
Absolutely.
And we're on to the next, on to the next.
Yep.
But we understand that, like, when we have these record months that we have, guys, this is our new standard now. We're not going back to where we came from. We came all this way. We're not going back. And so that's a huge thing for confidence building as well.
I think that's great. I always say you got to celebrate the wins. I think it's easy when you're in a mode, building mode, or going after goal mode. It's real easy just to go, and then not celebrate anything. And then when you get to the end, you're kind of like, okay, I got here, but you didn't enjoy, the small victories along the way. And I think it's really important to celebrate everything. Sometimes when you're on a streak, it feels like you're celebrating all the time. And you know what? That's okay. A good feeling. Yeah, that's okay. Right. Absolutely. C-Roc, I really appreciate you being on the show. Can you tell everybody where we can find you?
My website's the Mike C-Roc with no K, the Mike C-Roc, CROC.com. And also at Mikey C-Roc with no K, at Mikey C-Roc on Instagram. I answer my DMs. If you DM me there, if you have a question, check out my website. My podcast is on there on the website. What Are You Made Of? Had great guests, Grant Cardone, Tim Story. Man, I've had a lot of good guests on there.
If somebody wants to be mentored by you, how does that process work?
Best thing to do is reach out to me. You can, when you go to my website, there's ways to contact me or DM me on Instagram. And, we can look and see what your needs are and what's the best route for you to, whatever you're looking for, whether it's one-on-one or group or what have you.
Awesome. I really appreciate you being on today. A lot of great insights in there. I think for anybody on whatever side they're on here, whether they're just starting or they're far along on their goals or whatever their journey is, there was a lot of great insights in there you provided. So thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Nick. By the way, I have a book called What Are You Made Of? The Art of People Building that's going to be coming out here in the next few months. And to get that for free, all you have to do is go subscribe on my website. If you go to my website, there's a place where you can go subscribe and you can get a free copy of the book once it's out.
Absolutely. Everybody should do that for sure. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nick.